Yo, what is up, guys? I'm bringing you a brand new video, and this time I have for you today my Ultimate Succession Berserker Movement Guide. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through the large-scale 1v1 and long-distance movement of Succession Berserker, as well as just general tips and tricks for how to get the most out of it. So let's start off with the skills that you're going to be needing to do said movement. You're going to need Prime Beastly Wind Slash, and preferably up to max level on all of these. You're going to need Prime Predatory Hunt. You're going to need Prime Devastation. This is less of a movement skill, but more of a SA protection in certain scenarios. More on that a little bit later. You're going to need Absolute Weakling Hunt, Prime Tackling Rock, as well as Lava Piercer and Prime Lava Piercer. And just through those abilities alone, we should be able to keep ourselves 100% protected. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. Okay, so for 1v1 movement, you're typically going to be starting off in your Beast form. And generally, you're going to be, your opponent's going to be somewhere over there. So you're going to start off with Lava Piercer into Shake Off and then SF for all of the different jumps of Predatory Hunt. From there, you can Lava Piercer again into Beastly Wind Slash and then go into Weakling Hunt into Lava Piercer. Then from there, you hit WF into Weakling Hunt again. And then you can go directly back into your Predatory Hunt. And from here, everything's sort of just refreshed. You're able to go back into your Lava Piercers, you're able to go back into your Beastly Wind Slash, back into your Shift F, and you basically can just complete that loop over and over and over again. And the primary catches that you're looking for here in that is, SF is a knockback skill. So if you notice a knockback, it's perfect to go for a grab after that. And then obviously Predatory Hunt has bounds on every one of these hits. And it's also really good super armor trading. From there, we also have the Lava Piercer into Beastly Wind Slash. That is a float. So you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on your enemies and definitely mixing in Shift Q whenever it's available. It is a 45-second cooldown, so it is quite hard to, put into a rotation. It's just something you're going to use when you see fit. But let's do that one more time. So starting off with Lava Piercer into Shake Off, Predatory Hunt. You do that the whole time. Lava Piercer again into Beastly Wind Slash, into Weakling Hunt, Lava Piercer into WF, and then like so, and back into your Predatory Hunt, and everything just sort of refreshes from there. So you can do that in basically an infinite loop. Another thing that you can do is if you have to cut your Lava Piercer short like so, and you don't get the full super armor time, you might notice that some of your cooldowns will not be available when you need them, and that's where WC comes into play. So if you're ever struggling and let's say you run out of Predatory, Weakling, or the two Lava Piercers, then you're likely going to just want to hit your WC button to just get a little long super armor, and that's going to refresh your timer completely. You can also throw in extra iframes where needed, where that lingers for about a second and a half there, and that's going to allow you to get some of your cooldowns up. But that's typically the way that I would approach a super armor rotation 1v1. The damage is going to be really good, and the pressure for CCs is also going to be very good. So let's talk about more of the large scale engage. Now, when I'm engaging in large scale, I'm typically going for two major things. That is the maximum amount of CCs that I can possibly get, as well as going in and doing my biggest damage abilities and then getting out. So let's start with both of those things. So typical large scale engage, I will be in beast form in some form or another. I'll usually use my unstoppable beast before an engage, or I'll just pop my beast roar before an engage, which will also put me back into beast form. Sometimes you can, use your Wrath of Beast if both of these are on cooldown, but that's very unlikely. So how it would normally work is you Lava Piercer in, you hit SF for the big jump, you do the explosion at the end, you then hit Shift Q. From there, you iframe into Lava Piercer, Frenzied Beastly Wind Slash into Weakling Hunt, and then Lava Piercer away. That is a very typical large-scale engage for me. If you are doing that right, then you're either going to be very, very close to dead or dead. So anything else after that really doesn't matter. Okay, so if you ever have to re-engage, let's say that you do get out alive and you need to go back in, you're going to find that your Shift Q is already on cooldown for 45 seconds. So in order to go back into the fight, you typically would heal up with whatever way you see fit, typically using Prime Beast form if you have it for the 1500 HP. And then from there, you go back in for Lava Piercer, WF for the big explosion, then you go Ancient Wave into Lava Piercer, Beastly Wind Slash, Weakling Hunt into Lava Piercer. And if you're really confident, after that last Lava Piercer, you either use that to disengage, or you'll then Lava Piercer into LMB RMB, and then just go for maximum damage on a spin. So that is typically how I would large scale engage. And you don't want to start off with doing spins. You don't want to start off with doing Ancient Wave, because you're looking for the maximum amount of CC that you possibly can. And based on the damage in the game, getting off a Shift Q is pretty massive. And typically you can cancel out of it into an Ancient Wave whenever you want, and that's going to provide a lot of kills. So sometimes I will use Shift Q and Ancient Wave in the first engage, which means that in the second engage, I'm likely to go for the spin guaranteed. That is pretty much it for the large scale engage. Now let's talk a little bit about the long distance movement of the class. So long distance movement wise, we're going to be starting off in beast form, and all of it really just revolves around some of the similar skills we've been using in the rest of everything else. We're going to be going into Lava Piercer, into WF, into Prime Lava Piercer, WF, into Shift F twice, into Lava Piercer, and then we're going to use Predatory Hunt to refresh our beast cooldown, because it would be running out at that point. After that, you will typically hold WF and Shift to just sort of send yourself forward until you have your Lava Piercers back and available. So let me show you what that looks like now that everything's all set up and good to go. So we're going to start off in beast form. We are going to Lava Piercer, WF twice, Lava Piercer, WF, and we go Shift F twice, Lava Piercer into Predatory Hunt, and then we just hold this until our Lava Piercer is back, and then we go pretty much back right into exactly what we were just doing. And anytime nothing is available, you pretty much just go into your WF and Shift, and you can just run very, very long distances with that. In fact, I've done some tests, and Succession Berserker is roughly 65 to 70% the speed of a sprinting Tier 9 horse. So it's a very fast class, and it has no stamina consumption whatsoever. Another thing that you can weave into that particular movement is if you are ever in a situation where you don't have Predatory, you don't have Weakling, or any of the Lava Piercers, you can also do what's known as the Crab Walk. And essentially what it is it's going to be WRMB, F, Shift D, and then SRMB. So it looks like this. WRMB, F, Shift D, and then SRMB. And it looks like that. And essentially what the Crab Walk does is it's a good way to move around without using any of your movement. So let's say that you know that an engage is about to happen in large scale, or you're really far away from your 1v1 opponent. Using the Crab Walk can be a really good method to gain ground while using none of your stamina, essentially. I mean, Berserker doesn't really use stamina in general, but it's using none of your cooldowns. So you can move like this, and you also get the Beastly Wind Slash movement speed buff. And then when you're ready, you have all of your movement available for that big engage, right? So that's sort of the philosophy behind that. So WRMB, F, Shift D, and then whenever whenever this boot timer here, this little buff you get is going down, you then weave in the Beastly Wind Slash at the end, which will refresh it. If you do the Beastly Wind Slash, it doesn't refresh it because the skill was on cooldown. So at least using this particular flow every 60 or every 6 seconds is probably preferred. Not using it when it's on cooldown because it just kind of slows down your movement needlessly. Alright, so now let's talk about some generalized tips and tricks here for the class. Now, Succession Berserker definitely utilizes mouse movement, particularly when you are doing Predatory Hunt. Now, the way that you utilize mouse movement is you're going to hit... Now, for me, I have my mouse movement key on my control key. you're going to hit SF control, and then you have your fingers back on SF before you land. So it's going to be SF, you hit control, you move where you want, you hit SF again before you land. And you have to do that over and over and over again between each jump. So it's going to be SF control, SF control, SF control, and then you do your explosion at the end. So that is how you direct your predatory hunt. You can also do that for your big jump as well. So you can do your big predatory hunt and then make sure you're holding SF before you land. And that is typically how you're going to control your mouse movement. Another thing to consider about Succession Berserker that you might want to do before an engage, if you have the time, you can also think about using your Rabam Spin, your Feral Rage, at the start of an engage, as well as your Frenzied Tyrant Rabam. That's going to give you 20 DP and 15 magic DP for 10 seconds, and that can be something very useful for your tankiness before you go in for an engage. And just in case anybody's wondering, I will also include in this video my skill add-ons here. These are the add-ons that I generally use for pretty much everything. The only real compromise for PvP that I'm making is that I have a monster damage for Frenzy Destroyer, but that ultimately doesn't really matter to me, so that is what I run. And one last thing to mention as well is you might notice that there's a lack of me using Fierce Strike as sort of a catch or a CC. I typically find that sometimes it's really difficult to get out of certain abilities into a shake-off like this. And so a lot of the time it'll accidentally make you use your claws because you'll be trying to hit D RMB, but it'll make you just do RMB. And so that's why I generally do not use that as sort of an SA catch, because it is a float and it's something that I don't use too much in large scale PvP unless it's something like it's a dire situation, it's my last resort. But it is still SA damage for the first 4 claws, and it is a float, but I generally will use it in situations where it's like my last resort and there's nothing else that I can do to sort of finish off that damage because everything else is on cooldown. It is good damage, but my general sentiment is that I like to go for the Beastly Wind Slash into Weakling Hunt combos in order to get that damage off, because it allows me to move and it doesn't really keep me more stationary, and it allows me to just, like, you know, get away whenever I want. So that's pretty much it. That should cover everything completely. I hope that you guys found this video useful. If you did, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Peace.